This is BackgroundNippon. The lanterns are lit. Nothing here needs your attention. In the mist before sunrise, Nara waits. The morning air is cool, and the deer, hundreds of them, stand motionless in the meadows where temples will rise. This is a moment of beginning. The city has only just been born, its grid of avenues and canals stretching like a held breath. You walk these paths and hear the sound of your own footsteps and the soft breathing of the sacred deer. Around you, the landscape feels both ancient and newborn. The capital has moved here, to this piece in the Yamato Basin, and the weight of empire settles into the earth. Listen to the quiet. Listen to the beginning. The old capital, Fujiwara-kyo, has grown too small. For 13 years, it held the imperial court, but the city is crowded now. Its sacred spaces compressed, its power diminished. The political currents are shifting. Court nobles see signs that the center must move. Empress Genmei, ruling alone, listens to her advisors. She is an old woman when she makes this decision, but her vision is clear. A new capital is needed. Not just a new place, but a new beginning. One that will show the world that Japan's imperial house is as powerful and ordered as the great Tang dynasty itself. The move is not driven by disaster or defeat. It is an act of ambition, of will. Genmei orders the surveyors out to the Nara Basin. They will build something greater than anything before. The architects have studied the great cities of the continent. Chang'an, the capital of the Tang, spreads across a vast plain with perfect geometric precision. Its streets run in straight lines, north to south, east to west. Nara will follow this model. Heijo-kyo, the castle of Heijo, will be ordered, rational, visible proof that Japan has absorbed the sophistication of Chinese civilization. The city will stretch 4.8 kilometers from north to south, 4.3 kilometers from east to west. Its grid will contain the imperial palace at the center, with Buddhist temples dispersed throughout, and the residences of nobles and ordinary people arranged in careful hierarchy. Everything in its place, everything measured, everything intentional. Historical tens of thousands of workers move across the Nara Basin. They bring stone and wood and clay. They dig canals for water, for irrigation, for transport. They clear the land with patient hands. The sound is constant. The ring of hammers, the creak of wooden scaffolds, the shouts of foremen calling out measurements and instructions. Families have been relocated to make room. Villages have been absorbed into the greater plan. The work is exhausting and endless, and the workers know that they are building something that will outlast them, something that will house the power of the empire. They do not complain. To build the capital is an honor, even in its hardship, even in the dust and the sweat. There is a sense of being part of something vast and necessary. By 715 CE, the capital is substantially complete. The imperial palace stands at the center of the city, its buildings arranged with perfect symmetry. The great gates open to the south, facing the main avenue. Buddhist temples rise at cardinal points. Kofukuji, Todai-ji, Gangoji. each one a statement of faith and power. The streets are populated now. Merchants set up shops. Temples ring their bells. The city hums with the activity of government and commerce and prayer. But underneath the bustle is something quieter. The sense that this place has been chosen, that the land has accepted this order, that the deer who roam here have somehow agreed to share this space with the imperial city. The capital has come to Nara, and Nara has absorbed it without resistance. Kyoto was not built the way most cities are built, incrementally, organically, street by street across centuries. It was designed in its entirety before a single post was sunk into the ground. The planners laid out a grid of 11 avenues running east to west and none running north to south, each intersection creating a precise right angle. Each block assigned its purpose. The imperial palace sat at the north, its axis aligned with the great central boulevard stretching south toward the city's main gate. It was a city that expressed a philosophy, that order, imposed deliberately on the landscape, was itself a form of devotion. Within that grid, life arranged itself according to rank and function. The nobles lived close to the palace in large compounds with walled gardens. The craftsmen, the potters, the metalworkers, the weavers of silk, occupied the eastern and western markets and the streets surrounding them. The farmers who fed the city lived at its margins, moving in and out across the great gates with their produce and their animals. The grid imposed equality of geometry while preserving every hierarchy of birth. This was not a contradiction the Nara court found troubling. The order of heaven, they believed, required the order of earth. Of all the temples in the Nara capital, one stands above the others. Todai-ji, the great Eastern temple. Emperor Shomu has a vision for this temple that surpasses anything built before. It will house the largest Buddha statue in the world, a Daibutsu, a great Buddha. This is not merely a building for prayer, but a statement of Buddhist devotion at the imperial level, a monument to the emperor's own enlightenment and to the power of Buddhism to protect the nation. The temple is vast. Walking through its great halls, you understand the ambition of empire. The wooden beams are enormous. The spaces they enclose large enough to contain another world. Light falls through the high windows and illuminates dust particles that float like tiny prayers in the still air. The great Buddha does not appear in a moment. Emperor Shomu makes his vow in 743 CE, but the casting will take 9 years. The Buddha is to be cast in bronze, a process that requires unprecedented technical skill. The furnace burns continuously. Molten bronze flows in controlled streams into the mold. The workers move around the great pit with focused silence, understanding that they are participating in something sacred. Mistakes will be caught and corrected. The process will be started again until the form is right. The head is cast separately, massive and serene. The hands are cast in sections. Slowly, piece by piece, the Buddha takes shape. By 752 CE, the great Buddha is complete, and an extraordinary consecration ceremony takes place. 10,000 Buddhist priests gather. The ceremony lasts for days. The great Buddha sits in the Daibutsu Den, the hall built specifically to contain him. He is 15 meters tall, his body composed of 449 tons of bronze and gold. His eyes gaze outward with infinite calm. The ceremonies of consecration are elaborate, dense with meaning. A cord is tied to the Buddha's hand, and the emperor himself holds one end, demonstrating his connection to enlightenment. Priests chant the sutras, their voices creating waves of sound that travel through the vast hall. The bronze body catches candlelight and lantern light, and the great Buddha seems to glow from within. This moment represents the height of the Nara period. The capital has succeeded in its ambition. The Buddhist faith is now inseparable from the power of the state. But the great Buddha endures trials that test even his infinite patience. In 1180, the Daibutsu Den burns. The hall is destroyed, and the Buddha is damaged. But the people rebuild. In 1567, fire comes again. Again, the hall is consumed. Again, the Buddha survives. Again, the people rebuild. The current Daibutsu Den, standing for more than 300 years now, was completed in 1709. It is the world's largest wooden building, a structure so vast that it seems almost mythical, a hall large enough to contain a mountain of bronze and devotion. The great Buddha sits beneath its roof still, serene and undisturbed, watching the centuries pass, watching the fires come and go, waiting in stillness for the visitors who come to see him in every generation. The casting of the great Buddha was an engineering problem no one in Japan had ever solved before. The figure would stand nearly 15 meters tall, taller than a 4-story building, and would require more bronze than the entire island had in ready supply. Emperor Shomu's engineers designed a process of casting in layers, building the figure from the feet upward in a series of separate pours, each section cooled and integrated before the next was attempted. Workers came from across the provinces, some voluntarily, many conscripted. The copper mines of Nagato and the tin deposits of the eastern mountains were taxed to their limits. The project took 9 years and nearly bankrupted the state 3 times. Among the many objects commissioned for Todai-ji, the bell is perhaps the most enduring in daily experience. Cast in 752, it weighs nearly 26 tons and hangs in its own tower at the edge of the temple precinct. For over 12 centuries it has been struck at the same hours, at dawn to open the day, at dusk to close it. The sound, a low, rolling tone that carries across the entire basin of Nara, is not a single note, but a complex of overtones that take nearly 10 seconds to fully resolve. Those who have heard it describe a physical sensation, something felt in the chest as much as heard with the ears. The bell does not announce the time. It reminds you that time is passing. The deer are here when the city arrives, and they remain long after the capital departs. In the old accounts, a divine being arrived in the Nara region on the back of a white deer. This deer was not ordinary. It carried the presence of Takamikazuchi, the god of thunder and swords. The deer became sacred, touched by divinity. When Kasuga Shrine is established in 768 CE, The deer are recognized as the messenger animals of the gods. To harm a deer becomes a grave transgression, a crime against the sacred itself. The people of Nara learn to coexist with them. They wander the temples and gardens, appearing out of mist, bowing to the grass, their eyes serene and knowing. The deer become part of the spiritual identity of Nara, inseparable from its temples and shrines. Kasuga Shrine is the sanctuary where the connection between the city and its sacred guardians is formalized. Built in 768 CE, the shrine stands at the edge of the sacred deer park. Its lanterns, thousands of them, create a soft illumination at dusk that seems almost otherworldly. The lanterns are stone and bronze, some gift offerings from devoted worshippers, some placed by the temple itself. They line the pathways and fill the shrine's spaces, and when they are lit for special ceremonies, they transform the entire sacred precinct. The deer move through this landscape unbothered, eating the grass that grows around the shrine, resting in the shade of ancient trees. They are never hunted, never threatened, never treated as mere animals. This covenant between the human city and its sacred animals becomes one of the defining characteristics of Nara. The spiritual life of Nara is woven into every part of the city's fabric. Temples rise on multiple sides of the city: Kofuku-ji, Gango-ji, Horyu-ji, each one a center of Buddhist learning and prayer. Thousands of monks live and study in the monasteries. They copy sutras by hand, their brushes moving with meditative precision across paper. They perform rituals at dawn and dusk, their chanted words creating sonic architecture in the temple's vast spaces. The incense smoke rises and mingles with the light from oil lamps. To live in Nara is to live immersed in Buddhist faith, to exist within a landscape that has been consciously designed to facilitate enlightenment. The cycles of ritual provide rhythm and order. The calendar is organized around ceremony. The Nara period represents a particular moment in Japanese history, a moment when Buddhism has become fully integrated with the imperial state, when the capital city itself is a manifestation of Buddhist cosmology. The temples are not built despite the imperial court. They are built because of it. The emperor sees no contradiction between political power and spiritual devotion. The great Buddha is both a religious monument and a statement of imperial dominion. The sacred deer are both wild animals and symbols of divine presence. This synthesis of politics and religion, of empire and faith, of human order and natural grace, creates something unique. Nara becomes a sacred geography, a place where the boundaries between the temporal and the spiritual have become permeable and blurred. The deer of Nara are not simply wild animals that wandered in and stayed. They arrived, according to tradition, carrying a god. When the deity Takemikazuchi was invited to take up residence at Kasuga Shrine in 768 CE, he came mounted on a white deer, traveling from Kashima on the eastern coast of Honshu, across the mountains to the plain of Nara. From that moment, the deer of the region became sacred messengers, shika, and their protection became a matter of divine law. To kill a deer in Nara was for many centuries a capital offense. The sentence was death. The deer understood none of this, of course. but they behaved as though they did, moving through the city with an unhurried authority that suggested long familiarity with deference. The deer today number around 1,200. They are classified as a natural treasure and technically belong to no one, though the Nara Deer Preservation Foundation oversees their welfare. They have learned across generations exactly what tourists want from them. They approach with apparent friendliness, accept the senbei crackers sold at stands throughout the park, and occasionally headbutt visitors who are too slow in producing them. They bow, a learned behavior, trained by the crackers and reinforced by 10,000 daily interactions. Whether this counts as communication or commerce is a question the deer seem uninterested in resolving. They move through the park with the unhurried confidence of creatures who know they cannot be harmed. Capital. In 724 CE, the capital moves again. Emperor Kanmu makes the decision to relocate the imperial court to Nagaoka-kyo, a new city north of Nara. The reasons are complex: political, spiritual, practical. Some say that the Nara temples have grown too powerful, that their wealth and influence threaten imperial authority. Others speak of inauspicious signs, of cosmological disturbances that suggest the capital's energies have become exhausted. The move is not sudden, but neither is it entirely surprising. Within a decade, the courtiers and officials begin their long journey north. The temples remain, but their centrality to political power begins to fade. Nara is not yet aware that its greatest glory has passed. The temples do not leave. The monks who have devoted their lives to the study and practice of Buddhism remain in Nara, continuing their work in the great halls and smaller meditation chambers. Todai-ji still houses the great Buddha. Kofukuji still gathers students of the Dharma. The cycles of ritual continue: dawn prayers, evening services, the seasonal observances that mark the passage of years. The deer still wander the temples and parks, unaware that the political center of the nation has shifted elsewhere. Life in Nara continues with a kind of patient resignation. The city is no longer the nerve center of imperial administration, but it is still sacred ground. The presence of the great Buddha, the accumulated spiritual power of decades of prayer, means that Nara retains something that the new capital cannot replicate. When the capital moves to Heian-kyo in 794 CE, it moves with the intention of permanence. Heian-kyo, the city that will become Kyoto, is designed to be the lasting seat of imperial power. It succeeds. For over 1,000 years, Kyoto remains the cultural and political heart of Japan. But in becoming the capital, Kyoto also becomes the reason that Nara is transformed. Nara loses its administrative importance, its political weight. What remains is essence: temples, deer, prayer, the accumulated spiritual power of a brief but brilliant flowering of Buddhist civilization. Nara becomes something different, not the seat of power, but a place of pilgrimage, a location where people journey to encounter the sacred, to walk among the temples and deer, to sit in the presence of the great Buddha and feel the weight of history and devotion. What Nara becomes in the centuries after the capital departs is perhaps more meaningful than what it was. It becomes a repository of memory, a place where the history of Buddhism in Japan is preserved in stone and wood and gilt. The monks continue their practice. The deer continue their ancient rhythm of grazing and rest and movement through sacred spaces. Visitors come to Nara, not to conduct business or to exercise power, but to touch something beyond the ordinary, to see the great Buddha, to walk through the lantern-lit passages of Kasuga Shrine, to encounter the sacred deer in a moment of quiet communion. The city transforms from a capital into a sanctuary. In losing the weight of empire, Nara gains something more durable, the respect and love of generations who come seeking peace. When the court left, it did not take everything. The great temples were too large to dismantle and too sacred to abandon. Todai-ji, Kofuku-ji, Horyu-ji, Todai-ji, these institutions remained, supported by their own land holdings, their own networks of devotion that stretched across the provinces. The monks continued their copying of sutras, their casting of smaller Buddha figures, their cultivation of the philosophical traditions that had been imported from China and Korea and reshaped into something distinctly Japanese. Nara became, in the centuries after the court's departure, less a political capital and more something rarer, a city whose primary function was memory. It preserved what other cities were too busy becoming to keep. The resilience of Nara has been tested more than once. In 1180, during the civil war between the Taira and Minamoto clans, the forces of Taira no Shigehira burned Todai-ji and Kofuku-ji to the ground. The great Buddha survived. Bronze does not burn, but his hall was reduced to ash, and the wooden figures and records of centuries were lost in an afternoon. The reconstruction took 15 years and required the mobilization of craftsmen and resources from across Japan. When the new hall was consecrated in 1195, it was celebrated as a restoration not just of buildings but of a spiritual continuity that the fire had nearly severed. Nara had been rebuilt before. It would need to be rebuilt again. The great Buddha sits in the Daibutsu-den still, unchanged in his serenity. His face is peaceful, turned slightly downward, his hand raised in a gesture of blessing. Centuries have passed. Fires have come and gone. The wooden hall around him has been rebuilt, but the Buddha remains, his bronze body holding the light. In his presence, visitors fall silent. They lower their heads. Some press their palms together in prayer. The Buddha does not react to their devotion. He sits in perfect calm, as if all suffering, all time, all change has been understood and accepted long ago. To sit in the presence of the great Buddha is to understand something about the Nara period that no historical account can convey. That this was not just a political capital, but a spiritual achievement, a moment when human beings created something that would endure for more than 1,200 years. As evening approaches, the light in Nara grows soft and amber. The deer settle into their resting places, their dark eyes watching the slow transition from day to night. The temple's lanterns are being lit now, small flames kindling in stone and bronze vessels. The light spreads gradually through the sacred precincts, creating pathways of illumination through the growing darkness. The air cools. The sound of chanting voices drifts from the temple halls. Footsteps echo on stone paths. This is a time of transition, of turning inward, of the day's activities yielding to evening's quiet. The deer do not fear the darkness. They have lived here for centuries. Their presence a constant reminder that the human city is not the only inhabitant of this sacred landscape. Light at Kasuga Shrine. The lanterns are now fully lit. Thousands of them create a softly glowing landscape, each small flame a point of human intention and prayer. Each one a gift offered by someone who came to this place, seeking to touch something sacred. The light moves softly across the ancient wooden structures of the shrine, illuminating the intricate carvings and metalwork. The stone lanterns glow from within, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of weather and touch. A gentle breeze moves through the precinct, causing the light to dance and flicker. The deer move slowly through this illuminated space, unbothered, as if they understand that the lanterns are a form of reverence directed toward the sacred presence they embody. Deep in the temples now, the evening rituals continue. Monks move through the darkness with the practiced ease of those who have walked these halls for decades. Their footsteps are soft, almost silent. Candles burn low, creating pools of golden light in the vast spaces. The great Buddha sits in his hall, his massive bronze form barely visible in the candlelight, seeming almost to dissolve into the darkness surrounding him. But his presence is unmistakable. You can feel it in the quality of the air, in the way sound moves through the space. Outside, the deer have settled completely now, their breathing synchronized with the night, their forms barely visible in the darkness. The capital is far away now, Kyoto, with its own brilliant lights. But here in Nara, time moves differently. The cycles of prayer and the seasons continue, unchanged for over 1,000 years. The lanterns are lit. The soft glow of thousands of small flames illuminates the sacred precinct where the deer rest, and the temples hold their ancient silence. The capital moved away centuries ago, but the spiritual power of Nara remains undimmed. The city that was built with imperial ambition and Buddhist devotion has been transformed into something that transcends both, a sanctuary, a place of pilgrimage, a geography where the boundaries between the human and divine have become permeable. The great Buddha sits in his hall still, offering his silent compassion to all who approach. The deer move through the temples and gardens unbothered, guardians of a covenant that has lasted longer than any dynasty. The monks continue their prayers, their voices creating layers of sound that accumulate like sediment, deepening the spiritual resonance of this place. There is a particular quality to the light in Nara in the early morning, before the tourists arrive, and before the deer have fully woken to the day's routines. The stone lanterns along the paths to Kasuga Shrine are still faintly warm from the night's burning, and the mist sits in the low places between the trees without hurry. The city that was capital for 84 years has been everything else for 1,200 years since. Pilgrimage destination, tourist attraction, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Ordinary Japanese city with traffic and convenience stores and high school students on bicycles. But in these early hours, it is possible to feel something of what the planners of 710 CE intended. A place built to be worthy of the divine. The Buddhism that took root in Nara was not the popular Buddhism of later centuries. The Zen gardens, the tea ceremony, the compressed aesthetics of wabi-sabi. It was something older and more institutional. A state religion supported by imperial decree, tasked with the protection and prosperity of the nation. The 6 schools of Nara Buddhism were academic institutions as much as spiritual ones, producing scholars who could debate the fine points of consciousness and causality with anyone in the Tang Empire. What emerged from this crucible was a Japanese Buddhism that was simultaneously cosmopolitan and local, deeply learned and genuinely devout. The deer moved through its courtyards then as now, and the great bell marked its hours, and the monks studied through the night by the light of oil lamps that cost more than most families earned in a week. Prayer. The pilgrims have been coming for over 1,000 years. In the Nara period, they came from across Japan, traveling roads that were rough and long and often dangerous, to stand before the great Buddha and offer what they could. Some brought rice, some brought silk, some brought nothing but their prayers, which the monks accepted with equal formality. In the medieval period, the pilgrimages became more elaborate, more codified, associated with specific festivals and specific dates. The Mantoro festival at Kasuga Shrine, held twice a year, involves the lighting of over 3,000 lanterns simultaneously. Stone lanterns along the approach paths, bronze lanterns hanging inside the shrine corridors, and has been performed continuously since the 12th century. The people who come now with smartphones and guidebooks are the latest in an unbroken chain. In 1998, the historic monuments of ancient Nara were inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. The designation covered 8 properties: Todai-ji, Kofuku-ji, Kasuga Grand Shrine, Gangoji, Yakushi-ji, Toshodai-ji, the Kasuga-yama primeval forest, and the remains of the Heijo Palace. The citation noted their outstanding universal value as testimony to the cultural exchanges and artistic achievements of the Nara period, and to the role of the city in the development of Japanese cultural identity. These are the words of committees and conventions, necessarily careful, necessarily general. What they are pointing at is harder to say precisely, that this cluster of buildings and trees and paths in a small Japanese city contains something that belongs, in some meaningful sense, to everyone. In winter, when the tourist numbers thin, and the maple leaves have long since fallen, and the ground holds a cold that comes up through the stone paths, the deer are still there. They grow their winter coats, slightly shaggier, slightly more ungainly than the sleek summer animals, and move through the park in smaller groups, grazing on whatever the cold earth offers. The bronze of the lanterns takes on a different quality in winter light, darker and more deliberate, and the approach to Todai-ji is quieter than at any other time of year. The temple looks, in these conditions, more like itself, less a tourist destination, more a structure built to last 10,000 years and quietly making progress toward that goal. There are still young men who come to Nara to train as monks, who wake before dawn in cold dormitories and learn the sutras by repetition and learn the rituals by practice, and learn patience by living within institutions that have been asking the same questions in the same buildings for over 1,000 years. They are not numerous. The monastic population of Nara's great temples is a fraction of what it was in the Nara period, when Todai-ji alone housed several thousand monks. But they are present, and they carry out the same functions. The morning ceremonies, the maintenance of the altar fires, the careful copying of texts that are already copies of the originals brought from the continent by scholars who made dangerous sea crossings to retrieve them. As evening comes to the Nara basin, the mountains that encircle it on 3 sides begin to darken, their silhouettes sharpening against a sky that moves through amber and rose toward the deep blue of late dusk. The city below is neither large nor small, modest enough that you can see its edges from the surrounding hills, and quiet enough that sounds carry. The distant bell of a temple, the soft percussion of deer hooves on stone paths, the voices of the last visitors making their way back to the station. The basin collects the light as it fades, holds it a little longer than the hills around it, and releases it slowly into the night. The lanterns at Kasuga are being lit now, one by one, their small flames patient against the darkening air. Sleep well.